Hey there. So, something that I've been reluctant to admit and now seems like the best time for me to share this thought. I was writing about this in my journal the other day. There was a time when being chosen felt like the greatest confirmation of my worth. Someone saw me, wanted me, and picked me. And I thought that meant that I was finally enough. Then came the rejection. I was single for about 20 years by choice and met someone about 2 years ago. We were married it was a whirlwind romance, and everything that I wanted was in this person. I felt no reservations, had no red flags. Within 6 months, we were already deciding and making plans to get married. We had a beautiful wedding in Las Vegas with some friends and family that attended. And then we started our life in Troy, New York. And I thought that meant that I was finally enough. Then came the rejection. Married for 1 year. A few days after our 1-year anniversary, he cooked me dinner. He finished eating. I was still eating. And at the same time expressing that I know that we've had challenges this past year. I see us moving past them. And he told me he wanted a divorce. Whatever I was eating, I couldn't swallow. And I don't even remember what I said. I remember getting up and crying and so overcome with surprise because I wasn't expecting that. And in the days that preceded, I remember asking, I deserve to know why. You need to tell me why. I need to know the reasons why. And over the days that transpired, it was everything from I'm not attracted to you physically, intimately, or intellectually. Mind you, these are all some of the initial reasons why he was attracted to me, and suddenly that was no longer the case. I remember there was a part of me that, even though I heard those words, I felt like we can move past this. And I'm really good with coming up with plans and addressing scenarios. And I even remember coming up with this 6-month plan, which maybe I should consider repackaging it and selling it. It was something along the lines of rekindling romance. And over the next 6 months, working to reconnect from a mix of different ways. Had everything mapped out. I remember he took a look at it and said, "Hey, this is a good plan. You're a really great writer. I still want a divorce." And I remember something that switched and made me realize that, Jessie, in a way you're playing yourself, is when he said that I needed to convince him. And I thought, how do you convince someone to love you and to see your worth? And almost immediately I felt ashamed that I was in this space of desperation and coming up with this plan for us to rekindle our connection, when it was very clear that he had no desire of wanting to be with me in any way. So the silence, and then the disappointment, and then the questions I asked myself in the middle of the night. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? How did I go from being chosen to feeling discarded? For a long time, I carried the shame of that story. I didn't want to even tell my friends and family. I think I carried that with me for about a month. I even remember, in that space, I just stopped talking to him. And I remember one of the emails that I sent to him was, again, along the lines of, I need to know, when did all this happen? When did all this change? And one of the things that struck me And his response to that was him also saying that things went downhill the moment I moved in. I moved into his place. And I realized that the whole entire year, in some way, I was just in a space where I was being tolerated. And I was willing to accept the crumbs of love that he was dishing out because I believe I deserved that in that space at that time, when I was thinking about my own personal and financial circumstances. So again, for a long time, I carried the shame of that story, not because I'd fallen or failed, but because I believed rejection said something about my value. And this is where I had to pause. I learned that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people come into your life to love you. Others come into your life to teach you what love is not. And that was a lesson that I learned. Love is not walking on eggshells to keep someone. Love is not shrinking so someone else can feel bigger. Love is not abandoning yourself to avoid being abandoned. Love is not constantly performing in hopes of finally being enough. Love is not convincing someone to love you. Pause the performance. The greatest lesson rejection ever taught me wasn't that I was unworthy. It was that I had been measuring my own worth by someone else's ability or inability to see it. So I will no longer chase being chosen. I choose relationships where I can be fully present, fully honest, and fully myself in all ways. Because being rejected by what cannot love you well is not the end of your story. And I want to say that again. Being rejected by what cannot love you well is not the end of your story. Sometimes it's the beginning of discovering the kind of love you are meant to receive, including the love you give yourself. The lesson that I'm learning, I need to love myself more. If you've ever carried the shame of rejection, I hope you hear this. Your value didn't disappear because someone walked away. Your worth was never theirs to define. I'll say that again. Your worth was never theirs to define. Someday and somehow, some goodbyes don't diminish your life. It can break you, and you can fall into those moments of despair and sadness and grief because the life that you imagined has come to an end. But here's this beautiful thing that happens. Some goodbyes don't diminish your life. They make room for the love, peace, and authenticity you are always worthy of. I'll say that again. Some goodbyes don't diminish your life. They make room for the love, peace, and authenticity you are always worthy of. So I no longer carry that shame because I realized that it was not my shame to carry. That season and that chapter of my life is complete. And I realized that it's not a story, especially after today, that I feel the need to keep retelling. What I do take away from that experience is a reminder that love is not constantly performing in hopes of finally being enough. You are enough. And choosing yourself is really a beautiful thing. Because in that space, that is going to allow you to know who deserves to be in your space and who does not. It's going to allow you to value you more than anything else. And most importantly, it's going to allow you to know that you are worthy of everything that you desire. and everything that you deserve. I really like that line that I wrote, and I feel like I need to say it again. Your value didn't disappear because someone walked away. It's easy to feel that it does. Your worth was never theirs to define. Some goodbyes don't diminish your life. They make room for the love, peace, and authenticity you are always worthy of. So here's to new beginnings. Here's to new chapters. Here's to more loving on myself, and know that a new love story will happen in the most beautiful and authentic way. And if you haven't had a chance to, go outside. It's beautiful.